Iran is a contradiction with homosexual executions and world's leading trans surgery country. At first glance, Iran is a nightmare for the LGBTQ+ community. Under Sharia law, more than 7,000 homosexuals have been executed since the 1980s. Throughout history, queer oppression has been driven by destructive doctrines from orthodox and fundamentalist religious communities. These groups have long used religion to justify the marginalization, harassment, denial of rights, and even the murder of individuals based on their identity. This has been seen throughout the Christian world, from the Roman emperors to the Spanish Inquisition, and even Nazi Germany. Tyrants in some Islamic countries also justify LGBTQ oppression under Sharia law. In a horrifying example, ISIS combatants have been throwing suspected gay men from rooftops as others pelt them with rocks. Amid ongoing Middle Eastern tensions, Iran remains a focal point, not just for its foreign policies, but also for its domestic repressions. Since Iran's revolution, the orthodox regime has launched a war on its own people, including queer citizens, under strict Sharia law. Iranian law criminalizes consensual same-sex relationships, with punishments ranging from flogging to death. Women face similar punishments for engaging in same-sex acts, and after 4 offenses, both men and women can be executed. Since the 1980s, an estimated 7,000 homosexuals have been executed. High-profile public executions like the hanging of 2 gay teenagers in 2005 highlight the severity of Iran's approach. This is why the little-known secret in the West seems like such a contradiction. The government reclassified transgender people in 1986, permitting gender confirmation surgery, but trans people in Iran still face frequent harassment and persecution. Iran has now become a world leader in transition surgery, second only to Thailand. Both of these facts mean Iran continues to be an enigma wrapped in a riddle when it comes to LGBTQ rights and acceptance. Wow, this was tough to read. For me, it's almost like a draw for our community to go for things like a transitional surgery, gender affirming care. But then once you're there, what happens? It's scary. It's really scary. Is that part of it? Are they to draw us in to hurt us? Is it to, what is it? I don't get it.
The Iran situation is bizarre in so many ways, but actually has been that way for a while now. The thinking is that instead of being gay, one of the partners must be transitioned so that one is male, one is female. So it is technically straight relationship. And also, I want to point out that Roman emperors did not criminalize homosexuality until Christianity became the national religion throughout the empire in 394 AD, which makes the cause of Romans banning homosexuality the fault of the Christians. And also that region in Iran and that particular entire region is extremely opposed to homosexuality. I mean, the whole, Saudi Arabia also punishable by death. Bahrain, Bahrain and Qatar, they try to hold these World Cup events and ban. Well, they technically welcomed gay people, but confiscate the pride flags, arrest the journalists, and throw them out for reporting on the dire straits of LGBTQ people in that particular region. And also, really, Thailand is a better choice, because if you're going for transition surgery, they now have gay marriage, gay people widely accepted, and they have, then you don't get sanctioned for going there as an American.
Well, it's another example of the way religious extremism can do irreparable damage to a country and its citizens. And speaking of which, if the Orange Freak Show is reelected, his Heritage Foundation buddies will be borrowing pages from the Persian Iran handbook. You know that, for gay people. So just keep that in mind and vote.
Not just for gay people, for women too.
So I think that one of the main reasons we're talking about this is because one of our allies is at war in the Middle East. And anytime you bring up supporting Gaza or any of the people who are being tortured and bombed and deprived of basic human rights, as a gay person, you will have a conservative, a lot of times a Christian conservative, say, they'll throw you off a rooftop. Why are you even supporting them? So ISIS, yes, has thrown people off rooftops, and it's important that we know that ISIS and Hamas are not all Middle Eastern citizens. There's big divides. They murder their own people in there. It's an extremist regime. What I would say to the Christians is that you remember that man named Jesus who was paraded through the streets and beaten and spat upon? And what did he say when he got onto the cross? Forgive them, Father, for they don't know what they're doing. So I would say to take a page out of your own book. Just because a group of people hate you because of their own ignorance in the place that they come from doesn't mean that we should be supporting the destruction of their cities, their children. When you see these people with their dead babies in their hands and you can't have sympathy and say, you know what, they haven't evolved in the same way that we have yet, and criticize, like, I just think that it's a ridiculous situation. And just one other thing too, for the people who are not religious, who are completely ignore whatever teachings are in the Bible, like Bill Maher. Bill Maher says this all the time, like the queers, he makes fun of the queers for Palestine. It's not that long ago in our own country's history that we were pretty hostile to gay people, and in some communities we still are. So I remember Matthew Shepard and I were in college at the same time, not in the same school, but I remember when he was killed, and that was really hard for us, you know? And then the AIDS crisis in the 90s, growing up as an evangelical, gay men were dying left and right in horrific deaths. And people were saying, the conservatives were saying, like, oh, well, that's just God's judgment and punishment, you know, upon them. And we didn't really stand up for these people. So I never wished harm upon the people who hadn't yet evolved, because we were at times homophobic against ourselves. We didn't like that we were gay. Our parents had to come to grips that they had gay children, you know, and I didn't wish any of them death. I wished to be their friend, to have understanding, to start the dialogue. So I just think that, you know, we should rethink how we talk about Middle Eastern people and their views on gay people, because we all had to evolve at some point and they just may not be there yet.
And, you know, speaking of the aforementioned ally, Israel loves to trot out the embrace of LGBTQ people, but the current government under Netanyahu are staffed by ultra-nationalist and ultra-orthodox members of their legislature.
Homophobes.
They seek to roll back LGBTQ rights inside their own country. Yes, the Tel Aviv has one hell of a pride, allegedly, never been, but that doesn't mean that the current Israeli government is not homophobic as heck. You know, they love to paintwash this by saying that, oh, in Israel, LGBT people can exist, except they cannot get married, except they don't have the equal rights with against straight Israelis. And let's not forget, about 10 years ago, during Jerusalem Pride, an ultra-Orthodox man stabbed an American girl to death. So, yeah, who is homophobic and who?